All right, so here's your notes 8.1 for you guys to go over. I will be going over some of the same ones we've done in class, but I'm going to go kind of faster here. That way we can try to keep this at a shorter time. So our objective today, be able to graph exponential growth functions. We went over what that meant in class, so I'm going to go ahead and go forward to the first example. Okay, so just real quick, steps to graph. Make sure you guys account for any shift that's going on if there is one. Make a table. After you make your table, make sure there's at least 3 points. Plot them on a coordinate plane. So that just means put your points on there. You're going to connect with a smooth curve. The curve should look somewhat like a ramp. We went over what the shape looked like. And make sure you identify the asymptote. All right, so let's go ahead and try those steps. So this is the first I do that I did in class. Now looking at this thing, there is no shift, so it's just f of x equals 2 to the x power. So the first thing is to make your table. So make your table x and f of x. I put in f of x because it's not a y. If you want to switch to y, make sure you show on there. Now since there is no shifting going on, let's go ahead and put 0 in the middle because that's basically going to be your quote unquote center point. Now I said use 3 points, so you should pick 1 point bigger and 1 point smaller. So that's your 3 points. But this was the first graph that we did, so I went ahead and put some extra points on here just to make it look a little bit nice and neat. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to plug in. So keep in mind you're plugging into 2 to the x power. You are substituting for the x part. So this is going to be 2 to the second power. There's going to be 2 to the first power, 2 to the 0 power, 2 to the negative first power, and 2 to the negative second power. So just go ahead and evaluate those. 2 squared is a 4, 2 to the first is a 2, 2 to the 0 is a 1, 2 to the negative 1 is 1/2 because the negative exponent puts it on the bottom. This is going to be 1 over 2 squared, which is the same thing as 1 over 4. All right, so now we have our points. So the points you are going to plot are 2, 4, 1, 2, 0, 1, negative 1, 1/2, and negative 2, 1/4. Now, if you notice here, as our x values start big and get smaller, same thing's happening to our y values. Our y values are starting at 4 and then decreasing slowly to 1/4. All right, and it goes like that. So both of those are decreasing. Actually, starting from the left, which would be this negative 2, going to the right is another way you can think, is probably the way that you should be thinking about it. So if those arrows didn't confuse you, then sorry about that. But let's go ahead and graph this. So we have points at, so we picked points 0, 1, 2. Okay, let's go a little bit past here. Same thing here, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. And let's go up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so graph is set up. First point is 2, 4. So we're going to go right 2, up 4. There's your first point. Next point is 1, 2. So we're going to go right 1, up 2. Next point is 0, 1. So we're going to go 0, up 1. Next point is negative 1, 1/2. So going to go left 1 and then up halfway. Remember, these are approximate. As long as I can see that it is slope or it's getting smaller as you go to the left, then it should be fine. Negative 2, 1/4. So 1/4 is smaller than 1/2, so I know my point's going to go a little bit smaller to right about here. Okay. So now when you connect your points, make sure that you start close to your x-axis. Your x-axis is your asymptote. So actually, let me show this. So your asymptote, let's make it green. Okay. So this dashed line, this green line, represents our asymptote. Whoops. Go away, other green line. Okay, so not that one. Delete. Okay, so that green line is asymptote. That is on your x-axis, basically. So you don't want to cross that. You want your graph to get very, very close, but not cross it. So what you should do is start close to that line and curve up, hit all of your points, and it's going to go up that way, and it's going to go that way. Now, it is very important that this side of the graph right here, okay, that's a bad arrow. There, that's an arrow. Okay, that starts looking like it's going flat, and it eventually looks like it's becoming that green line. So that is your graph. Now, it does say to identify your asymptote. So your asymptote is this green line. So the green line is side to side, so a line that goes side to side is a y equals line. It's a horizontal line. So the asymptote is y equals, and that line is at 0, so y equals 0. But keep in mind, this started off as an f of x function. So you're not putting y equals 0. Well, actually, you know what? You can leave it y equals 0 because that is that line. So, right, no, never mind. It is f of x, so let's make it f of x equals 0. That is your asymptote. Okay, so when you guys make this graph, I should see those points, that curve. Couple things you guys want to be careful about this is making sure that the curve looks like a ramp. Sometimes you guys did like a skateboarding ramp or something like that, so make sure it looks like that. Okay, so let's try another one. All right, so the next one, no h and k still. If there was h, it would be minus h plus k over here, but those pieces are not there, so we don't have a shift yet. So let's go ahead and graph this thing just like before. We make our table. This is still f of x, so it's f of x here instead of y. No shifting still, so still start at 0. Now we'll go ahead and just make 2 points. So just go to 1 and -1, since that's all you really need. As long as you guys know the basic shape of the graph, you just have to shape it like a ramp and make sure it goes through those 3 points. So it's going to be 1/2 times 4 to the first power, 1/2 times 4 to the 0 power, and 1/2 times 4 to the negative first power. Excuse me. 4 to the first power is a 4. Take half of 4, you'll get a 2. 4 to the 0 power is a 1. Take half of 1, you get a 1/2. 4 to the negative first power ends up being 1/2 times 4 to the negative first is 1/4. The negative exponent property makes it flip over, so this ends up being 1/8. Okay, so there you go. There's your points. Your points are 1, 2, 0, 1/2, and -1, 1/8. Now you'll notice here that all you need is the 3 points. Once we start graphing this thing, you'll see why. So let's take those points and plot them. Okay, so our x values go from 1 to -1. Our y values are all still positive. So let's go to make our marks again. I'm going to make a couple though. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's go up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. Okay. All right, so first point is 1, 2. So we're going to go right 1, up 2. Next point is 0, 1/2. So 0, 1/2 is right here. And next point is -1, 1/8. So -1, before it was -1, 1/4 or something like that, I think. But 1/8 is even closer to the x-axis, so this gets even closer down here. Okay, so now the best thing to do is to think about the x-axis. So I'll put in the asymptote again as that green dashed line. Okay, so that's where the asymptote is. Just put it right on top of there. Your graph should not be touching that, but it should get really, really, really close. So start your graph off really, really, really close and curve it up. And that's all you got to do for that. Label your asymptote. This asymptote is f of x equals 0. And that's how you make your graph. All right. Let's try another one. So this one has a little bit of a difference here. You have a negative in the front. So knowing that there's a negative right there, that's your A part. Because if you remember, y equals ab to the x. If this a part, x minus h plus k, if that a part is negative, it will be flipping your graph upside down. Okay, so this is going to be basically our graph reflected over the x-axis. So let's make sure about that. So your table, once again, there is no shift. This time it does say y equals, so you can put a y over here. Center is 0. We just got to make 3 points. So we're going to go up to 1, to -1. Plug them in. You get -1/4 times 3 to the first power, -1/4 times 3 to the 0 power, and -1/4 times 3 to the -first power. So let's do these out. 3 to the first power is a 3. So you get -1/4 times 3, which is -3/4. Okay. 3 to the 0 power is a 1, so -1/4 times 1, which is -1/4. And this will be -1/4 times 1/3, which equals -1/12. Okay, so 3/4 is bigger than 1/4. 1/4 is bigger than 1/12. So we're just going to have to try to make our graph kind of smaller. But so let's try this out. Let's see here. So now my graph is no longer, now before I made the y-axis kind of bigger because I knew that all my y values were positive. Now my y values are negative, so I might want to make the negative part of my y-axis bigger there. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so the y part, let's make these kind of spaced out a little bit more, since we know that most of them are fraction within proper fractions. So if this is 1, -1, -2, -3. Okay, so first point, so let's actually put our coordinates over here. So 1, -3/4. 0, -1/4. Keep in mind too, since these are fractions and we are graphing, if you feel more comfortable with decimals, feel free to switch them to decimals. So -1, -1/12. All right, so let's plot those things. First one is 1, -3/4. So we're going to go over 1, down 3/4, which is about 0.75. So that's about right there, -0.75. Okay, next one is 0, -1/4. So that's about 0.25. That's a quarter of the way down. Okay. And the last one is -1, -1/12. So -1, -1/12. Now you don't have to get too accurate here, but I do know that it's less or closer to the x-axis than my last point. So I'm just going to go ahead and approximate about right there. That's -1/12. Okay. I'm not going to get too picky about that. Now, keep in mind your asymptote is still going side to side. It is still this. It is always your x-axis unless there is some type of shift. There still is no shift, so this thing's not moving. It's just staying right there. So once again, you want to start really close. Now keep in mind, this is going upside down. So start really close on this side and hit those 3 points, and then it's going to come down this way. So that's like our other graph, only inverted. So it's flipped upside down. And your asymptote is still f of x equals 0. It's still your asymptote. Oh, wait a minute. Was that f of x or y? This one's a y. So scratch that. Y equals 0. Because it's that green line. We're talking for the asymptote, we're talking about this green line right here. Okay. And there's your graph for that one. So it's just like how we've been doing, but now it's upside down. All right, so next one. Now this one, a little bit different here. We have a shift going on. We have that and that. Now, just like before, you have to account for the shifting first. So if it's with the x, it's opposite. So actually, this is telling you to go left 1 and down 4. So you are going to make 2 tables here. Okay, first table, you rewrite the function with, without the shift. Take your table. f of x. Okay, and then you're going to make a shifted table over here. And when you shift everything over, the x values are going to go left 1, so you're subtracting 1 from your x's. Your f of x values are going down 4, that's like your y, so you're subtracting 4 from your y values. All right, so that's going to be your shift. Now this is just like how we did the square root graphs. Same process here. So since this is non-shifted, you're putting a 0. Go up to 1, down to -1. Plug it in. There's going to be 2 to the first power, 2 to the 0 power, 2 to the negative first power. 2 to the first power is 2, 2 to the 0 power is 1, 2 to the -1 is 1/2. Okay? So this will be, your x values are all subtracting 1. 1 minus 1 is a 0. 0 minus 1 is a -1. -1 minus 1 is a -2. Okay, now we're going to subtract 4. 2 minus 4 is a -2. 1 minus 4 is a -3. 1/2 minus 4 is a -3/2. 3.5. All right. And yeah, there you go. So we have all of our points over here. So the points you're plotting are 0, -2, -1, -3, and -2, -3.5, 3.5. All right, so let's graph this thing. Now looking at this, I'll know which part to make it bigger by looking at my y values. The y values right here, all my y values are negative. So, but this isn't flipped upside down. So I know that I should probably make, now the reason is because it was shifted down 4. So the graph will look normal. It's going to go kind of like a ramp going up. But the entire graph is going to be shifted down 4. So this thing's moving down. That's why we have our negative y values there. All right, so since I know the whole graph will be moving down 4, I should probably leave some room down here. So hold on. Let's make this like that. So let's go down 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go down to 5. And this side will go up. And this side go out here a couple and back here. All right, so first point 0, -2. So 0 down to first point is right here. Okay, next point is -1, -3. So we're going to go left 1, down 3. And the next point is at -2, -3.5. So -2, then we're going to go down 3.5. So that's going to go right about here. All right, so now before you connect these points, because there's lots of ways you can connect these wrong, you want to make sure and figure out where the asymptote is. So do not draw this yet. I'll tell you when to draw. Okay. Now your asymptote usually starts right there at the x-axis. Now it turns out we have a shift though. Now if you remember our shift, the shift was left 1, down 4. So left 1, down 4. Now what that means is that everything got shifted left 1, down 4. All of our points, but also since this helps us graph, the asymptote does too. Now if you look at this, if you have a left shift, if you move a horizontal line to the left, it doesn't really change. Since those arrows at the end mean it keeps going on forever, then it doesn't move. It doesn't really do anything when you move it side to side. It still stays in the same spot. So the thing is, the horizontal shift doesn't affect our asymptote. What does affect it is the vertical shift, which is down 4. So this gets moved down 1, 2, 3, 4. So your asymptote is actually at -4. So when you draw your line, you want to get close to this green line, just like how we had been doing before. You start close, and then you start moving up across these points and go up that way. Now, it is very helpful if you guys draw the asymptote first, because then you'll make sure not to cross it, because you're not supposed to cross that asymptote. Right? And our value of our asymptote, I think it was f of x. Yep, f of x. So f of x equals, and then this got moved down to -4, -4. That's our asymptote. All right, and there you go. That's how you do one with a shift. Okay, so let's see here. What I want you guys to do for homework is this problem, this pair share. So I will be checking for this when you guys come in tomorrow. So make sure you guys try this one problem out. All right, hope it's helpful. And if you had any questions about any of the problems I just did on here, make sure you bring them in tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.